Welcome, and thank you for tuning into our program. The following presentation has no video and is intended to be listened to and enjoyed without the need to actually watch anything. So kick back and relax, or continue whatever you are doing and just enjoy listening to our story. It's January 3rd, and an overcast, chilly Saturday morning. I decided to walk to work instead of driving today. My small apartment is only a few blocks from the office and on the opposite side of the street. Next to my apartment building is a rooming house. Their blue vacancy sign glares into my window at night. The owners at the rooming house run a tight ship. It's clean and quiet, unless the owners are kicking someone out for not paying rent or for being a pig. I can't complain. It's not the bad side of town, but it's not the upper crust either. As I walk down the block, there's an elderly man sitting on a stoop with a sign that reads, "I'm blind." He has a homemade knit blanket on his lap and a money can by his side.
Good morning, Billy.
"Sonny, how do you always know it's me?"
You have those old soft shoes, Billy, and you don't smell like smoke. So if you get new shoes, you be sure to let me know.
"Sonny, I will be sure to do that. And here, have some change."
Thank you, Billy. I like change, because a sawbuck and a dollar feel and sound the same to me.
Just a bit farther down the block, by the intersection where I cross the street to get to my office, there's a vendor named Frank. Him with his cart. He sells hot food and coffee. "Billy, how about a hot coffee for this chilly morning? It's a good day to start putting all those files away. You know, the ones that are piling up on your desk. Or figure out who is in that fancy car that's been sitting outside your office. No one has gotten out. They've just been sitting there." "Thanks, Frank. Keep that up and I might just have to hire you." "No, thanks. I don't do filing and I don't do windows. And who would watch your office when you're not around?" "Here's some money for the coffee, Frank, and a tip." The driver must have been watching me, and with a tottering gait and as fast as his old bones could go, he opened the back door of the car. A gentleman who looked to be about 50 years old, wearing an upmarket dark coat, gray hat, and a scarf, and looked in my direction. "Mr. Nichols, I need to speak with you. I'm Mr. Raymond Northcliffe." "Let's go inside, Mr. Northcliffe." I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and turned on the light. I asked if I could take his coat. He handed me his coat, hat, and scarf, and I hung them on the coat tree. Mr. Northcliffe took a disgusted look around my office, then had a seat in the chair by the front of my desk. I had decided to keep my coat and hat on. I felt the hug of my trusty .38 as I sat down behind my desk. This gentleman might be acting like he has money, but his suit has a few wear marks and could have used a good dry cleaning and a press. Before I could ask, he spoke. "Mr. Nichols, you need to find my daughter. She's been kidnapped and is being held for a $50,000 ransom to be paid Tuesday the 6th. We have less than a week. The kidnappers will be calling the house Tuesday at 7 p.m. to tell me where to drop off the ransom money and make arrangement for my daughter's return." Less than a week is correct. I have 3 days. "Mr. Northcliffe, when was she last seen?" "Well, she didn't show up for the New Year's Eve gathering at the manor. I told her it was necessary that she attend. There was going to be important business acquaintances she needed to be introduced to." "So when did the kidnappers contact you, Mr. Northcliffe?" "Midnight, New Year's Eve. The kidnapper said, 'Happy New Year's, Mr. Northcliffe. I have your daughter, and I want $50,000. I will contact you on this phone on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Now, no funny business and no coppers." And then he hung up. I would like to come over to the mansion, Mr. Northcliffe, and have a look around. That is fine, Mr. Nichols. And don't mind the appraisers. We are trying to come up with the money from the personal accounts and assets without taking that large of an amount of cash from our business. Here's the address. You can call the house and my driver will come and pick you up. Mr. Northcliffe, that won't be necessary. You need to read and sign this contract before I agree. I need $100 up front and $50 a day when services are rendered, with my expenses included in that amount. Fine. Fine, Mr. Nichols. Anything to get my daughter back without spending all of my fortune. After he'd signed the paperwork and paid my retainer, I walked out from behind my desk. I shook his hand and walked him to the door. I handed him his coat, hat, and his scarf. He didn't even bother putting them on. Walked out the door. I watched as his driver opened the car door. Mr. Northcliffe got in, and I watched them drive away. I walked over to my desk just in time to catch a stack of files that was about to fall off of it. I really should have drove to work today. When I'm done with my investigation out at the country manor, I need to get more filing cabinets. My New Year's resolution was get my office looking professional. It's late afternoon and I'm back at the office after going to the Northcliffe Manor. I was looking for evidence on the kidnapping of Mr. Northcliffe's daughter Penelope. I hang my coat and fedora on the coat tree, with my notes from my investigation in hand, waiting for my new-to-me filing cabinets to be delivered. I walked over to my desk, adjusted one of the mountains of files that are there. I removed my holster that holds my .38. I placed it on the one small area I have left on my desk, and kicked back in my wooden chair. I closed my eyes for a moment, going over what I had just witnessed at the Northcliffe's manor house. There were more than just appraisers there. It was a quiet estate sale. I did find 2 matching oak filing cabinets to match the one I have, and 2 nice matching wooden chairs. It was nice of them to deliver, too. I felt the money I spent on them was going to a good cause, to help get Penelope back. If I can't. I opened my eyes and went to my now filthy window. The delivery truck was just driving up, and they were starting to unload. I went to the door and opened it for them, all the while thinking to myself, something about this case just isn't right. Thank you for delivering those. Put the cabinets next to the other one, and if you would, the chairs can go over there. All the while I was keeping an eye on my .38 on the desk. I thanked the boys for the delivery and gave them a tip. Now I found myself pacing and thinking. There were only 3 staff members for that large house and grounds. The maid, who was also the cook, a driver, and a butler. The maid had mentioned that Mr. Northcliffe told her to pack 2 suitcases for Penelope, as she is going to take a vacation to help her deal with stress. The maid did as she was told and didn't ask any questions. That was New Year's Eve's morning. The butler and the driver had been out picking up a few items for the maid, so I didn't get to talk to them. Mr. Northcliffe was nowhere to be found while I was there. I found out Mr. Northcliffe owns a factory downtown in an area that was called Shady Lane. It was a nice place before the war, but now it's known as the Shades because of the hideouts and shady dealings that go on in that area. In my younger days, I took a few odd jobs around there myself. I even lived there for a while. Sitting back down at my desk, I grabbed my notes. There was something else the maid said that didn't sound right. I grabbed a pen and I circled it. We are just getting over one catastrophe and now this. Isn't one tragedy enough? Then she had excused herself from the room. I hadn't read anything in the papers about an accident relating to that family. I wonder if my former partner, Detective Eddie, would know anything that he could tell me. I took my bourbon from the drawer in my desk. I grabbed my glass from the other drawer. I poured a drink and put the bottle back in its resting place in the desk. I will call Detective Eddie tomorrow morning. I looked at the files stacked and leaning at awkward angles on my desk, and then at the two newly acquired oak file cabinets. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes again. Not today. It's Sunday morning, January 4th. I drove to work today, but still walked across the street and grabbed a cup of coffee and a sweet roll from Frank. Overcast and chilly again. It is windier than yesterday, and it's changed directions. I can now smell the fresh-baked bread from the bakery 2 blocks over to the west. I swear that Frank checks the wind direction before he opens his cart in the morning. I didn't have to walk over to the bakery to buy a sweet roll. I need to give Detective Eddie a call. Eddie, this is Billy Nichols. Doing great, Eddie. How about yourself? Good to hear that. I have a question, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer it. Do you know anything about an accident involving the Northcliffs? You know me, Eddie. I won't be running to the papers with any information you give me. Because I have a case involving Mr. Northcliffe's daughter. You do? But it's a long story, and it's still being investigated. You can't give me any information over the phone? That would be fine, Eddie. We could meet this evening. Thanks. See you then. That is a little frustrating. You can't tell me over the phone, so it must be something really big on his end of the investigation. I remember being in his shoes not that long ago. Well, I'm not sure what to do next. Maybe I should just take a drive downtown to Shady Lane and check things out. I hope you enjoyed our story, and thank you for listening. Tune in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for part 2 of this 3-part story titled Pennies from Heaven, a mystery story featuring William Nichols, private investigator. Please remember to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment. Please subscribe to our channel, and go hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. This has been a Radio Static production, and thus ends our broadcasting day.